Hi, this is Jadu from Property Frameworks Buyers Agency, and today I want to discuss about a topic which was recently brought about in a public forum. Now, before I start, I just want to let you know whatever I say here is not financial advice. Please do seek your own independent advice as your situation may be different to what I'm describing here. So the question that was asked in the forum was about a couple who had 2 children, and they wanted to know the best way they could build their wealth, and they had 2 options. Option 1 was to buy a house and then live there and then see if they could buy investment properties down the line. Option 2 was the couple renting out, as in they would stay in a property for rent and then purchase investment properties so that they could grow their wealth. Which option was better? So I'm going to just discuss these 2 scenarios and just go through some numbers. So let's get into it now. If you look at this, the combined income of the couple is $13,500 per month after tax. So they're earning a pretty decent income. We're looking at a 10% deposit and they're going to purchase property for $1.2 million. So this first scenario is when they are looking for a house to live in. They're going to buy a house to live. So purchase price is $1.2 million. Their loan amount is $1.08 million. We have an interest rate of 5% variable. Now let's look at the interest rate and their principal and interest repayments for the next 10 years. So for year 1, I'll put in the interest rate as 5% because this is the current variable rate for principal and interest loans. For year 2 onwards, I'll put the interest rate at 4% because most likely inflation would become under control towards the latter part of the year and interest rates would most likely drop to that 4%, around that 4% mark, and that's why I have used 4% here. So their principal and interest repayments for year 1 is at $5,800, and then moving down it's around that $5,200 mark. So this $5,800 is around 40 to 50% of their income, whereas this $5,200 is roughly around that 40% of their income. So a significant amount of their income is going into this repayment. Okay, now let's look at the scenario after 10 years. So let's say this property actually grows in value by 5% per annum. The value after 10 years would be $2 million and the loan remaining is $878K. The interest on their loan is about $500K, so they've already paid $500K as interest on the loan. So let's look at what is negative about this particular scenario. So this loan that they have here, this 1.08 million, is non-tax deductible. So they can't deduct this from their taxes. Okay, that's point number 1. Point number 2, the house they live in is not an asset. So the house is not producing a rental income. You are paying to live in that house, and therefore you should consider it as a liability. It's an asset for the bank, but it's a liability for you. And then they have actually used the maximum amount of their borrowing capacity. They have reached the limit here by using this amount, and they have a lot of constraints when it comes to borrowing more. So they might find it a bit more difficult to have money for investment properties. So buying more investment properties might be a problem here. So that's the first scenario. Now let's get into scenario 2. Now let's look at scenario 2, where the couple decide to rent in the same suburb and they buy investment properties elsewhere. Okay, so in that suburb they're paying $650 per week in rent. So that comes to $2,800 per month. Okay, and now they're going to purchase 3 investment properties, and each one of those investment properties is worth $400,000. So 400K times 3, which is equivalent to that 1.2 million purchase which they had earlier. They're going to put in a 10% deposit for each of these properties, and the rental income for each of these properties is $450 per week. So you get $1,350 per week from the 3 properties. So for this strategy to work, it's very important that you select these 3 assets carefully to have good cash flow and good capital growth at the same time. You should ensure that you are buying in the correct locations. So this strategy would only work if this location and the asset has been selected well. And the other thing over here is that these 3 assets are being purchased in different locations. We are not buying all of these assets in one location, so there is diversification. Okay, now let's look at some numbers. How does this look like in terms of numbers? So year 1, we have 3 properties and each one of them has an interest rate of 6%. So this is the overall cash flow. So when I say overall cash flow, this is the total rental income subtracted where you have all the other expenses on the property. So you're subtracting all the expenses from the property, and this is the final cash flow. Let's have a quick look of how this was derived. So year 1, we have a rental income of $1,350 per week times 52, so that's $68,000. Then we have interest on loan at $64,800, insurances at $3,600, PM fees at $5,100, council and water at $8,300, and the maintenance on the property at $4,500. So that's the total expense for all 3 properties at $86,300. So to find the cash flow, this is the total yearly income and this is the total expenses for the year. So it's minus $18,300. So this is for the year, and then for the month, that's $1,525. So $1,525 is going out of your pocket every month. But remember, these are investment properties, so this could be claimed back from your tax. So you could easily get about $500 to $600 back here. So essentially, they're only losing about $900 every month. Let's look at year 2. The interest rate has dropped to 4.75%. So as I was speaking about before, most likely inflation would come under control towards the end of 2023, and then we would have some kind of drop in 2024, and therefore that's why I've used 4.75. And I have used 4.75 for the next 10 years. We might very well have a scenario where the interest rates drops even further after this, but just to make things simple, I have left this at 4.75. And then we do a cash flow calculation at 4.75% for year 2, and we find that it's minus $398 per month. If you claim taxes on this, ideally you're going to get about $150 back, so it's about $250 per month out of your pocket. Okay, this is for year 3, but we have a scenario where the rent has increased by $20 per property, and therefore the out-of-pocket expense is minus $156 per month. Fast forward to year 10, interest rate is at 4.75 and rent increase by $60 per property. And because of that, we have a cash flow positive scenario of plus $291 every month. Okay, so now we have a overall picture of the cash flow situation. So what are the advantages of using this method? Number 1 is that you save more. So you have your rental income of $2,800 per month. You're paying $2,800, and to hold on to the investment properties for year 1, for example, after taxes, you might be paying about $1,000 every month. So $2,800 plus $1,000 is the cost of your rental plus the cost of holding on to the investment property. So that's $3,800 per month for the first year. For the second year, this becomes much better. You have $2,800 per month in your rental, and the cost of holding the investment property comes to about $250 per month, because you can still claim this on taxes. So $2,800 plus $250 is the cost of your rental and the cost of holding your investment properties. So similarly, you can find out the cost of your investment properties every year, and you find that it's significantly lesser than the principal and interest that you were paying on your home. In the previous example, you were paying about $5,800 on principal and interest, whereas in this scenario, while you're renting and holding on to investment properties, your out-of-pocket expenses are significantly lower. So because of that, you have more money to spend and you could enjoy a better lifestyle while living in that same location. Okay. Number two, more borrowing. So what does that mean? You can see here the cash flow situation is improving every month. So banks will view this favorably, and what the banks will do is that they will give you more money to buy more investment properties. So this couple could more likely end up buying a couple of more investment properties within that 10-year period. Okay. Number three, equity build-up. Now, we have selected these assets in very good locations. So after 10 years, if the property grows at 5% per annum, very conservative amount, you get 650K per property. So that's increased in value by 250K. Each property has increased in value by 250K, so you've got an increase of about 750K there. Okay, and the last point is what I spoke about earlier, diversification. So you have all these three assets in different locations. So even if one asset drops in value, you have the other two assets in different locations that could, increase in value. So because you have diversified your assets, you have significantly lowered your risk. Okay, so I just wanted to break down these numbers and show you why, from a numbers perspective, scenario 2 would be better. It will also be better for building their wealth in the long term. But then you could be emotionally attached to your home. You could just tell me that, I just want to buy a home. I don't want to go through this, I don't want to live in a rental property and, have to move out every year. That's so much of a hassle for me. I don't want that. I just want a home and I'm happy with it. Yeah, that's totally fine as well. If you want a home and if you're emotionally attached to a home, that path is fine for you. But if you're looking at numbers, if you want to build wealth through property, then this is something that you should seriously consider. So I hope you got some value from this video. And again, I want to let you know this might not be applicable for your own personal situation. So please do seek your own independent personal advice. Professional advice. And I hope you really enjoyed this video. Thank you.